disrupt or undermine the performances of the Hong Kong or Chinese central governments will be considered to have committed a subversive act and could be removed from their posts once convicted. The law also applies to all businesses registered in Hong Kong. A company could be fined or have its business permit suspended over a national security offense. Offenses range from waving an independence flag or chanting pro-independence slogans to attempts to overthrow the national
Albert,
government.
we've lost the
Activities meant to pressure authorities into pursuing
vision
political...
again.
Sorry?
We've lost vision.
Oh, you lost vision again. Okay,
Yeah,
let me just stop
the same as in the last session.
Okay, I just try it again. Okay. Okay, have you seen the vision back?
Yep.
Okay, I will continue from here instead of starting over. Thank you.
agenda could be considered terrorist acts. These include arson, damage to transport, electric power or gas facilities, interruption of electronic control systems for providing public services like water, electricity, gas, transport, telecommunications, and the internet, as well as dangerous activities that seriously jeopardize public health. Damaging property used by the government could also be regarded as subversion. Hong Kong authorities will be tasked with enforcing the law. Policies for the law will be made by the newly established Local Committee for Safeguarding National Security. It will be chaired by Hong Kong's top leader, the Chief Executive. The committee will also develop a legal system and enforcement mechanisms for the city's new law. But critics are concerned about a lack of accountability because the committee will not be subject to judicial review. No institution or organization will be allowed to interfere with its work. The committee will also have a national security advisor appointed by the central government. Hong Kong's police force has set up a unit dedicated to investigating national security cases. The unit will have the power to demand that suspects surrender their travel documents, something that previously needed a court order to do. The unit can also tap phone communications with the chief executive's permission, rather than needing court approval, and it can search homes without a warrant. Overseeing the work of the police and the Hong Kong government is a new agency from the Chinese mainland. The Office for Safeguarding National Security will monitor how Hong Kong authorities enforce the new law. It will also work with local authorities to manage foreign companies, NGOs, international organizations, and foreign news agencies that operate in the city. Opponents worry this could hamper the work of such organizations. Another concern is that staff from this agency will not be subject to local laws while carrying out their duties. Officials say most national security cases will be handled by Hong Kong courts, but suspects can be extradited to the mainland for trial if the case is deemed too complex. Bail will only be granted if a judge has sufficient grounds to believe that a suspect will not commit acts that endanger national security. A suspect has the right to a lawyer, but the media and the public will not be allowed to sit in on trials that involve state secrets. Chinese government officials say the national security law is needed for Hong Kong to restore order after the city was rocked by months of violent anti-government protests. And officials from both the central and local governments say the law will help uphold the one country, two systems principle, by which Hong Kong enjoys a high degree of autonomy from mainland China. The local government will promote national security education in schools and universities, as well as in the media and on the internet. Hong Kong's chief executive has also said that only a small percentage of the population would be impacted by the new law. But so far, those assurances have done little to allay concerns about how the law will be applied and who will be affected.
Okay, so this is a rough explanation of what is the national security law. So you want to start discussion, or if you do not want to start discussion yet, I will also be able to show you another video from a legislative council's member explaining again in English what she thinks about the national security law. Do you like to see that first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the title of this is the West Thick Narrative about National Security Law for Hong Kong. So I'm again sharing the screen, so let me stop this first, and then I will share the screen. This one is not too long, just about 5 minutes. So where is my share screen? Yeah, here. Share screen.
Your computer, in front,
Yeah. Share.
Yeah.
You see a black screen?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. That's good.
We have loopholes in our legislation. We don't have the offense of subversion, secession, or laws against local terrorism, or laws against foreign and external interference. So we need to block these loopholes in our legal system. Every country has a right to protect itself. The US have at least 20 statutes targeting espionage, national security, interception, external interference, It is common for countries to have a full range of the necessary legislation. And the events in Hong Kong in the past year, pretty violent and pretty dangerous, clearly show that there are national security threats to China, to Hong Kong, and there are internal security issues in Hong Kong. So to object to mainland China taking actions to protect herself as well as to help Hong Kong restore order is totally unreasonable. Western media and a lot of Western politicians have been spinning a fake narrative about what's been happening in Hong Kong. They have romanticized lawbreakers like Joshua Wong, Nathan Law, Martin Lee as freedom fighters, democracy advocates. But what they have done in Hong Kong is really to suppress other people's rights and freedoms, to damage property, and to tear apart the social fabric of our society. So Western media and a lot of Western politicians have displayed a highly biased and unfair view of Hong Kong, which we really need to keep rebutting. The death of one country, two systems has become a cliche. The foreign media has said at time before 1997, Fortune magazine forecast the death of Hong Kong, but we have always bounced back. I think the past few decades, because of Hong Kong's reunification, reabsorption into China, many have predicted that our separate lifestyles, separate systems will cease to exist. In fact, in the past 40 years, there have been many crises of confidence and brain drain, people trying to emigrate. But those who left have all come back. The money which left have come back. Hong Kong continued to be prosperous and successful despite some short-term setbacks. So I believe that in spite of some short-term worries about this new legislation, with the nation's backing for Hong Kong, we will be able to bounce back economically, socially, and internationally. Many of them have been brainwashed and misled into thinking that the central government has been suppressing our rights and freedoms. On the other hand, if you look at the situation in the British era, they did not start promoting democracy until they were about to hand Hong Kong back to China. And in the past 23 years, we have made much more progress in expanding universal suffrage than in the 165 years of British rule. So Beijing has actually been more liberal to Hong Kong than the previous British rulers. But a lot of Western politicians and media have been promoting the narrative that Beijing is holding back democratic development, despite the fact that it is clearly stated in the Basic Law that our democratic development must proceed in accordance with the provisions in the Basic Law, that is, in a gradual and orderly manner, and in the light of the actual situation, which are very recent. So I think, again, a lot of unfair allegations have been leveled at Beijing and at Hong Kong. The allegations of police brutality against Hong Kong is the most unfair part of their allegations, in my opinion. Because if you look at Hong Kong, despite a whole year of pretty violent protests, our police have not fatally injured anyone. Not a single person has been killed by our police. On the other hand, recently, 3 policemen, as soon as they got off duty, have died of exhaustion. And 1 innocent bystander had been killed with a brick by the protesters, and 1 innocent worker has been set on fire. Our policemen have adhered to the principle of using minimum force. Our policemen are much more restrained compared to the much cooler and cruder policing methods of American and even European policemen.
Okay, now we will be going into the discussion. So I have shown all the videos now. So
Albert, can I ask the obvious question? Is Regina Ip, who narrated that, is she related to you in any way?
no, she married somebody with the surname Ip.
Okay. Is her husband related to you?
No, her husband is not related to me as well, although we had the same surname.
Right. Okay. In my opinion, extremely biased look at things. Who does she represent?
She represents the pro-government camp.
Is it a particular organisation, or is she just speaking for herself, or what?
Now, just like here, we have different parties, right? So she belongs to the pro-government parties. So in Hong Kong, there are several parties operating, but they can be basically separate into 2 camps. One camp is the pro-government camp, another one is the anti-government camp. She is on one of the pro-government camp, but she is not representing the whole sector of the pro-government. There are other people in the pro-government camps from other political parties. Hong Kong political party is not big. They are very small usually, but they almost separate into 2 groups. There's almost no middle ground party.
Thank you.
Okay, any other question?
Yes, what I was wondering, I can understand the public issues where people are demonstrating violently, but does it extend? I wasn't sure whether it extends just to private correspondence, emails that you might send to someone criticising the government. I have a feeling that would still come under the radar and be picked up. I don't think the Chinese government, the Beijing government, likes criticism.
Well,
and even if it's private between me and you, I think, or a discussion, I think they would see that as a problem.
well,
Is that right?
now,
Or am I extending it too far?
put it into correct perspective. All our electronic communications, including this one, will be recorded by the U.S. National Security Agency, NSA. So we know that from Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden already tell us that there is a PRISM project which records all electronic communications in the world, okay, including other foreign politicians. So to us, there's no piracy. Now, in terms of the Chinese government, there are a lot of surveillance in China as well, but there's a very different attitude towards so-called privacy. Chinese people is willing to sacrifice their privacy for security. So, for example, in China, we have security cameras almost in every street corners. So these are being monitored all the time. But in terms of discussions, political discussions and criticism of the government, it is totally okay. Now, if you can read Chinese, you can go into some of the Chinese sites, which you will find discussions about government policies, criticism of government policies, and so on, all the way. The only thing that is not allowed is to overthrow the government. You can criticize even Xi Jinping, no problem. In China, you can openly criticize Xi Jinping or any government officials, but you cannot promote the idea of overthrowing the government. So I think this is similar to everywhere in the world. We can criticize our politicians, but we cannot overthrow our government. So the same is in China. There's not much difference. From what I can observe in the online forums in China, there's a lot of criticism of government officials as well as even including Xi Jinping. Obviously, Xi Jinping enjoys very much more support than the politicians here. There is just released a 8-year. There was an 8-year polls on the views of China released by Harvard Universities in early July, maybe 5th of July, something like that. So a group of political scientists have been tracking of the poll of the. I think I still have that document in my not in this computer, in the other computer. Now, if you like, I can share the link to that document in an email to the group later on. Okay, that was a research done for over several years. They track the popularity of the government. This particular government now at the moment enjoy about 89% of the approval of the Chinese people. 89. I think I just out of my memory. Yes.
The way that survey would have been taken, I would be very cynical of the results.
Well, the survey was
it's
done.
a little bit like the similar situation in Russia.
Well, anywhere you will have different people doing polls all the time. Now, this one is done by Harvard University in United States. It's not done by Chinese scholars. Okay, so I suppose they will have a view themselves. Even if they are pro-China, they will still have the Western view, isn't it? And the authors none of them are Chinese. The authors are all Americans. Yeah. So I will pass along that particular survey. It's not too long. If I recall correctly, it's about 60-something pages long. So.
So Albert,
yeah.
Why was YouTube, Google, WhatsApp not allowed in China? If China is such an open country,
well, why it's not allowed? Okay, their explanation is that you can watch them, but you have to do a deliberate choice. So if you in China, if you want to watch YouTube, you need to use VPN, virtual private networks. VPNs, that means you put a machine outside of China, and then you connect to that machine, and then from that machine you go on to watch whatever you like. So that's called VPN. Now in China, the use of VPN is legal. Chinese doesn't allow you to watch it. It's legal, totally legal. But China deliberately closed off Facebook, Google, YouTube, and eBay, Amazon. They closed it off from the West because they already wanted to build up their internet companies. So it's basically a commercial decision. By blocking Google, then they have the Baidu. By blocking off eBay, they have the Alibaba. By blocking off Facebook, they have the WeChat and WeChat, etc. So there is I think it is a conscious choice of creating an environment for its own internet company to start up. But it is allowed under WTO as a developing country. And remember, China joined WTO as a developing country. So it is legal.
That may be the official reason, but...
Sorry, one by one, please. Yeah. Who's first? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go. I think China's far past being a developing country. They're pretty well fully developed.
Yes.
Come on. Otherwise, can we say we're a developing country? We're only been 200 years trying to get our act together. Come on.
Yeah, well, in a way, yes, in a way, no. It depends. Okay. Now, if you look at the GDP per capita,
Yeah.
then China is developing. Okay. The China's GDP is still not yet the GDP of United States. So its GDP is about 2/3 of United States with 5 times the population. So GDP-wise per capita, yes, it's developing. But we must also remember, in the east coast of China, we have Shanghai, we have Shenzhen, etc., which are highly developed. So China is very mixed. We have some area in the west which is poorly developed yet, and there are some region in China which is highly developed, like Beijing, Shanghai. These are big cities and very, very modern cities. Yes, it is totally correct in terms, depending on how you count.
Yes.
Albert,
If we knew the answers to how many people are homeless or go hungry, can't get enough food, that would be a mix to come in that could be interesting.
Yeah, well, now, in China, homelessness is almost zero. The reason is Chinese has been on the land for generations. People are living in China is not a migrant country. Okay, every people are aborigines, almost. Okay, so there's almost no homelessness. Even if you're very, very poor, you will still have somewhere to stay. Maybe the ceiling is leaking, maybe the windows is gone, but you still have somewhere to stay. And you might also have a piece of parcel of land where you can plant something. So homelessness is almost zero, except in the city. Like the situation in city is that some of the poor farmers from the western region go to the eastern region to look for opportunities. So they will move into, say, Beijing, Shanghai, and when they move in like that, they might experience homelessness because, after all, it might be too expensive for them. then they will be forced to go back to their countryside because they can't survive there. So these homelessness will be temporary in that sense. They will stay there.
Can I get back to the original question
Yep.
that you asked, or the original statement of yours of the reason for China blocking computer sites from the West? Surely there's more to it. Surely it's allied to the fact, it's allied to the way China is treating countries such as Australia, Britain, Canada, obviously the US. So,
Okay.
yeah.
No, okay. Now let's talk about Australia. Okay, let's talk about us. How China treated Australia. Okay. Now, China didn't send an army to Australia. China didn't sell its warships to Australia.
No, but I'm talking about their attitude to trade, their attitude, very subversive of the fact that Australia wanted to start.
Sam wants to talk. Okay, now Sam, you go. Okay.
Yeah. Talking about that, the attitudes of one country to the other. But before that one, I should say, I just watched this currently, that Pompeo visits to the markets of Germany and forcing her not to use Huawei and then not to have a good relationship with China. And then a long talk, everything they have to counter each other. And then there's one interesting one. Have your government listened to my conversation on any telephone again? You can see that kind of listening to someone else, still continuously doing it for the last week. Talk about the economic system. I should think that in case of doing the business, we are not going to do that. You want to buy or you don't want to buy. People have been both have to be the trust one to each other. Cannot be just bullying one side to the other. It's what I'm saying that maybe it's too strong words. Talking about that, the price of iron ore from the 25 cents going up to the $200, and that within a couple of years, and that have been more than 50 times of a negotiation. Still doesn't want to coming down. That's all right. Why China continuously and why China have been built all the train from the midst of the mining area, take all the railroad, invest all these things, go to the harbor, in order just only want to buy the iron ore. And then why suddenly? It's not suddenly actually. It's more than 3 or 4 years have been giving the opportunity to adjust back, but here is continuous pushing up, and people everywhere. There's always there is a profit on the business. They were not going to be lose all the time. So meanwhile, if I can't find the goods from other, I will pay the expense to that country. So I have to get a chance to choose from somewhere else. And then someone have been asking me again on this point. And why your country, Indonesia, has some iron ore? Why you don't want to sell in before. I said the infrastructure over there is not good, but China has invested a lot of infrastructure in mining area. So they take quite a long time. Then they build up the harbor, build up the thing. So at the end, the China can just say, sorry, if you don't want to drop it again, I will switch. So they switch it, and they get it from the China, from the Indonesia, and they also got a supply very, very far away from the Africa. So it's not it is already giving a time, but still doesn't want to change it, and still that we are doing the Western one is in the past I just think that Chinese is only dealing with a trust. Where the Western one is dealing with a contract. But here, when I coming down, then I think contract is only in the past. Trust still very remain in the Chinese belief. I trust you. If once I will not trusting you, then it's very difficult to get it back.
Yeah.
And people will not be bullying you. Once you will be bullying once, will not be the bullying all the time.
Okay.
So that is kind of character.
Let's Robert. Robert.
I think I need to say publicly for everyone, to clarify, I am not an Adelaide Crows supporter. I want everyone to understand that. I have no association with Adelaide Crows. The other part I worry is, in going back to what Sam was saying, is to me it seems like anything the Australian does, the Australian government, that in any shape or form that affects China is very, very critical straight away. They are, but what I don't know,
Absolutely.
they treat every country the same.
No.
They don't. We get the impression here they're only singling out Australia.
Yeah. Now, I can answer that question for you. Now,
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Robert.
you're absolutely right. China is not giving a lot of patience to Australia. Put it that way, where China can stand up with other countries other than Australia. Okay, so we have to look at it from this aspect. Now, number one, if we go to a restaurant and if the waiter is very rude to us, we won't go there again, right? So when you're doing business, you want to be courteous, both sides to be treated fairly. Now, in terms of political power, Australia has about 20 something million people. It's not even the number of people in Shanghai. Shanghai has more people than Australia. Yes, China like to buy it from Australia because our iron ore is very good. The iron ore in Australia is one of the best. China also want to buy the coal for Australia because the Australian coal is very good. But if the Australian government is every time in every corner blocking and hindering Chinese government's moves, for example, our Prime Minister want to blame COVID-19 on China. Now that obviously upset China. They stopped Huawei from selling to Australia, block Huawei access to the Australian market. That also upset China, right? So on response, what the China said, okay, I don't need to buy wheat from you. I don't need to buy sorghum from you because I can buy it from somewhere else with better price, better service.
Oh, but I'm surprised to hear you say that. Australia never said that COVID-19 came from China.
No,
They said
you're
that
wrong. Yes, they did. Our
He said
Prime
that
Minister
there
said
should
so.
be.
Our Prime Minister
What?
said so.
No,
Yes,
what the Prime Minister said was that there should be an inquiry to find out where it came from and he went out of his way not to mention any specific country.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep. That's it.
yes, that is already have been stated because the Prime Minister said we have to send up and we have to search whatever the region coming from the Wuhan. That is correct. And then from so many people have been done it.
Now, but
And even
at the end of the day, the motion that was put forward in the WHO, the motion itself,
World Health Organization.
yeah, the World Health Organization, eventually was also agreed upon by the Chinese, because the final motion removed the search, the clause to limit the search in China. They are now going to search for the roots of COVID-19, which China agrees to. But initially, they want to put in the clause to specify in China, which China objects. So there's a slightly, yeah. At the end of the day, when that clause is being removed, China agreed to the motion, and actually is one of those supporting the motion.
Don't get Scott Morrison mixed up with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is talking about the Chinese, or was talking about the Chinese
virus, yeah.
disease. As I said earlier, and I'm repeating myself, Morrison went out of his way not to mention any specific country.
Yeah.
All he asked for, and yes, he was the first, but all he asked for was for an inquiry to find out where it had come from.
That's fine. So China agreed to
No
that.
country mentioned.
Yeah.
I think, if I can say something, Albert, if something like this virus has affected most of the world has a right to understand different things of how it's caused and how to prevent something like this happening again.
Yeah,
The last thing
absolutely.
you want is it to happen again. And you need to know whether we can control it, or if there's a particular source where it's going to come up again, that can be stopped or changed.
Yeah.
I don't think that any country should have to be a yes person to China and say we will shut our lips, and if you say something, we'll say yes, sir. Can we hurry up and do it for you? That's not on.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
China
that's
didn't
the
expect
impression
everybody
they
to
give.
agree 100% with it.
I certainly wouldn't like to live in Hong Kong. I wouldn't feel safe and happy there, because
Not at the
they're
moment,
going
no.
to twist things around and they get into the people. And I think with the survey you mentioned that was favourable to China, probably a lot of the citizens are prepared to shut their lips and not criticise because they've got the physical trappings that most humans would like in the way of luxury items, well, not freedom, but freedom within a limit, as long as you don't criticise, to buy cars, to buy acquisition, have a good job, a good place to live in, and freedom to move about the country. But as long as they keep their lips shut and they abide by the social climate that the government set, or the Communist Party set, as you said before, I remember you saying way back, they can do anything you like as long as you don't criticise the government. They don't like criticism
No,
because it's
as
one
long
party.
as you do not promote
And I mean,
to
if Western
overthrow the
parties
government. You can
Yeah.
criticize the government, but not overthrow the government.
Yeah. But it's
Albert?
like Western countries, they would like you not to criticise the government of the day.
Okay.
Albert,
Yes.
could I ask a question? It's steering away from this a little bit, but how do you view China's increasing presence and action in the South China Sea, South Pacific?
Well, it depends on, again, China claims sovereignty over South China Sea. Okay, that is a Chinese claim. And if we want to look at sovereignty, we need to look at history, right? Because it's all about history. For example, we all remember Falklands War. You remember the British sent an army right to that's South America, Argentina. So a long way because of sovereignty of the Falkland Island. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Island, yes.
But,
So
Albert,
so
the
it's all
situation
about
is-
history. Okay. So it depends. Now, in terms of international law, international rule, the law of the sea. What's that called? The law of the sea is called. Is a United Nations treaty, in which United States is not a signatory. Okay, but many countries are, including China. That under that treaty, countries can claim the sovereignty of rocks, which will be above the sea level at high tide. So you
But
have a piece of rock.
But you're missing the point, Albert, that China is building up what you call rocks and making it into islands, making it into
Yeah.
habitable areas,
Yes.
and therefore increasing their influence in the area
Of course.
quite.
Yes.
um,
Now, why not? Now, put it that way. Do you know where is Christmas Island? Yes. Our Christmas
Yes.
oh,
Island
yes.
is
yes.
very far away from us. Where it is actually closer to Indonesia than to Australia.
Yes. That's right.
Again, we claim sovereignty. Okay. So again, sovereignty is a history. Unless we look at history, we cannot understand sovereignty. So what I'm trying to explain to you is, in terms of the historical evidence to support a place, whether it is your land or is my land, is based on history. But that includes several things. First of all, whether it is considered land or not. So that's why I talk about it must be a something above sea level at high tide. So it considered as a land. If it is not a land, you cannot claim it. Okay. So number one, it is about land. Second, who is the last administration of that land? Who runs a government over that land? If that
But
land has never been governed, then it is what the British government consider Australia is. So they come to Australia and say, okay, Australia is not governed, therefore it is my land now. He stuck a flag here and called this is British colony, right?
Look, we can talk about history and whether Britain was right or wrong to claim the land, but it's an historical fact that they did. But the point is, or the difference with what China's doing, is that they are building new islands.
Well, if this is my land, why I can't build on it?
But a few years ago, there was an international tribunal in The
Yeah.
Hague already decided that China did not have the claim on that island, or they slowly.
Now, okay, now
know,
that
claim
international
it.
tribunal is not a tribunal, okay? But that's why I go back to the law of the sea. The law of the sea do have a tribunal, but that tribunal couple of years ago between Philippines and China, okay? The court itself, the tribunal, isn't United Nations tribunal. It is a private tribunal renting a space in the United Nations building. It is not United States tribunal. And
But
the Chinese...
Korea is also claiming that
Yeah,
area.
yeah. There are several.
There's Philippines, there's China, there's Korea.
No, not
thinking
Korea.
Japan.
Now, we have Philippines, we have Vietnam, not Korea. Korea is too far away.
Vietnam. Yeah.
Vietnam, okay. There are, and then Indonesia, Malaysia. There's a lot of countries claiming, but the claims are different islands, okay? And so far, there's only one war against that. It's a war between China and Vietnam about the islands. All the claims had now settled by diplomacy. Yes, Sam?
Actually, that island is during the Ho Chi Minh want to build up the army, and then it has no land, and China giving not landed to the Ho Chi Minh, and then later on they just claimed that one is by themselves. Talking about all this one, it's all based on history. History, it is already changed since the Ming Dynasty. All the southern China is already belong to the China already, and even the Zhenhuo have been coming down, go to the Malacca, go to the
Africa, yeah.
For 7 times, and never be colonized any of the island, and all those routes have been clearly stated already.
Have been mapped out, and they're under Chinese sovereignty.
Yes, under Chinese.
Yeah,
and because now that in America and in Canada also got the American atlas publisher since before the war. That also clearly clarified this belong to China.
Now, it all depends on when this South China Sea suddenly is no longer China. Okay. Now, after the Second World War, not too long ago, it's about 70 years ago. Okay. After the Second World War, the Chinese government is asked to station in the South China Sea. Okay, is asked to station size. That means the West recognized the South China Sea to belongs to China. And the Chinese government did put an administration on one of the islands. And that is, the building is still there, and there is still occupied until now. So the Chinese army has been stationed on that island since the end of Second World War. Okay, of course you ask which army come from which government. Well, it come from the Republic of China, ROC, which now is in Taiwan. Okay,
the Taiwan, yeah.
The Taiwan. Now, remember when China takes the seats of United Nations as the representative of China in the 1970s. It take over the seat from the ROC, the government from Taiwan, and both of them understand that whether ROC or People's Republic of China are both China, is only different government. But once the representation of the seats in United Nations Security Council transferred to Beijing, then that administration island automatically transferred back to Beijing, and therefore Beijing has the sovereignty over South China Sea, except until 2010. Until 2010, then suddenly everything changed.
Albert, it's after 2 o'clock. With your permission, I'd like to completely change the subject, but this is there is a report on correspondence report tonight which has relevance to China, and that is on the Falun Gong.
Okay.
Which of course started in China, was banned in China, and now has its headquarters in the United States. Radio National had some previews of the program in the breakfast program this morning. I urge everybody to listen. It is some of the things that come out about Falun Gong are quite disturbing.
Yeah, I.
So 8 o'clock, ABC, 8 o'clock tonight. Correspondence report.
Okay, I will watch it, and then I may not be able to talk about it next week because I might not have the time to collect sufficient information, but we will talk about Falun Gong sometime later.
Good, excellent.
May not be next week, but we will talk about that.
774 ABC.
No, television.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
ABC TV, Channel 2 or whatever, 8 o'clock tonight.
Well, I watch it on
The
iView.
preview was on Radio National.
Yeah, I will have to watch
the
it.
The actual program is a television program.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Now I will be sending out the links to that Harvard research after this. Okay. So you can have a look at the result. Okay. Anyway, thank you.
Sam wants to say something, Albert.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. See you later.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. Maybe we could have some of this again, Albert.
Yeah. I think that if we want to have something like that, let's put now. Let me think about that, because if we are all organized so that you have a little presentation on your views with information, with facts that everybody can share, then it will be easier rather than what we are doing offhand, because doing offhand means the information is not accurate. So you want to do it, well, I am happy to organize once that we do a little preparation. Everyone, you want to present, you prepare what you want to talk about it, and then I will allow you to share screen so that you can share the information, and then we can then with something in common so that we can talk about that. What do you think? Like to do that?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay, so I'm okay with all kind of information. So you prepare your information, and then we share, and then we talk. Okay, but again, not next time, because I need some time to prepare. But I will put that into the plan, and then we'll be able to do that sometime later.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. See you all next week.
See you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Have a good week.
You too.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.